kicks, we're gonna work close the gap. Before we go into close the gap, there are some basic helpmates and skill sets that you're gonna want to know. Be in the know of why you'd want to close the gap, okay? So let's go first and talk about fight stances, all right? So she steps into a fight stance, I'm in a fight stance. This is called an open stance. It's called an open stance because our bodies are both open in the same direction, see? Open stance. She switches her stance. Now you can see that she's facing one way, I'm facing the other way. We're closed. This is called a closed stance. Open stance. We have a lot of range here to fight, right? We also have the dead side to go to, but there's also some risk involved in an open stance. Go into a closed stance. I still have go into the dead side, but I feel a little more guarded, a little more protected from this closed stance. So I want you to remember that when your torsos are facing the same direction, you're in an open stance. When you're facing opposite direction, you're in a closed stance. Now let's talk about the ranges in our stances. All right, so she's gonna go to attention just so we can see, skip a little bit, we can see the ranges. So from right here, see all the space in between? This range is called long range. All I have to do is square up, take a step, and then I've made contact, all right? That's long range. I still make contact. Now from right here, if someone's already standing right here and they just take a step, all they have to do is even send a punch, they make contact, but at a closer range, all right? Now I take a step and someone's already here. This is takedown range, headbutt range, elbow range. So from right here, I have that range. So close range, short range, long range. All right, so now we're gonna close the gap from our fighting stance. Let's say that we're in an open stance. Pay attention to what your opponent, what the attacker is doing and what stance they're in. From this open range, when they take a step to approach and I want to keep them away and push them back, like, oh no, don't come near me, right? I could be dealing with too much space. Space is your enemy, that they're gonna wanna go ahead and extend their hits, their punches, and their kicks, and now you're open for those attacks. So I prefer a closed stance, all right? When you're working this closing the gap skill set. You can always switch your stance, move around, switch your stance. So close the gap simply means to keep someone away long enough for you to close the gap safely and work maybe a Biana, a double leg takedown. So close the gap. They take a step, you extend one, and then they're gonna be pushed back a little bit. They take a step two. All right, so we're gonna work close the gap from a fighting stance, moving around. All right, so if you notice, we are in a closed stance, and the close the gap is intended for someone to use when they're at a long range, like a kicking range. So here we are, I have my opponent coming forward, I extend, okay? But now I'm kind of far range and I don't want to be hit, so I kind of reset. They come back in again, I extend, all right? But again, I'm kind of far and I regain that footing. And then and now the third time, and this is a good pattern, when you close the gap here, see I'm closing the gap, I'm gonna work the double leg. So I just drop to my knee, I grab the leg in, and then I